requirement, but the educational requirement, which both planning and zoning currently have.
Zoning has both of them.
It is something with some urgency for us, and you asked where there's urgency, and it would simplify our functioning a lot. I don't know if it's possible. You've been at a lot more of these, but I would put in a plug for that if it's at all possible.
So, I mean, you could send something if you could.
I looked at it,
Figure
yeah,
something
let
out.
me write that up.
Well, I think all the boards should be consistent in
Yeah.
terms of if you
Oh,
miss
yeah.
X number of meetings, if you don't
I
participate
mean,
in the
in
education.
certain
shouldn't be-
circumstances, we
Yeah, you can be
do have
excused.
flexibility because of emergency issues, but, yeah, for the most part, if you are a reoccurring, you're a member and you continuously miss a meeting, you don't attend at all, or you may attend one a year, that's not helping out the city of Kingston.
So, but I mean, the criteria should be for each board the same requirements.
I think planning and zoning are the same, exactly.
So we could pass an amendment making all boards have that requirement?
No,
No.
do each one separately.
I think, yeah, it probably needs to be.
Well, we're gonna do that board and it's gonna be merged with the other board, so that would be kind of.
Yes, I think.
All right, so we will limp along if
There you go.
necessary, but I just,
What's another decade or two, right?
I'm also not sure that you can adopt a resolution to include, termination language for individuals who were appointed under a statute that didn't have termination language. I think you would have to wait for their term to expire, or you would have to dissolve the board and create a new board that includes those provisions. Because arguably, you have individuals who were appointed to a position that had no, provision for removal.
Most of it's been in existence since 1963. The zoning board membership and criteria and that is
Correct.
language that's Dan.
Mark is
wrote.
talking, specifically about HLBC, where there are no provisions for removal. So what we've ended up with are individuals who were appointed, who never show up, who can't be removed, and we end up needing a unanimous vote on basically everything because 2 or 3 people are absent.
Do we currently try and contact those individuals and ask them?
Well, absolutely. We have one individual on Heritage who, insists that, he resigns, he shouldn't have to submit something in writing and, hasn't done it. And we're basically in limbo. He's like, I don't want to be on the board, so submit a letter. And he hasn't submitted a letter, and we're stuck. Which is pretty absurd.
Okay, anything else? Or I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Can I ask a question?
What?
In reference to what?
Well, the zoning, in this proposal, it says, it is proposed that the entire zoning law be reorganized at this time to provide a more functional framework that can be easily amended in the future. Do all feel that it has been adequately reorganized? It seems as though it's a little piecemeal. Is it enough of a reorganization? And if it's not, is it being left in a state where the reorganization can go even further? So we have, it's very, very similar to the original 1963 organization. Some things have been combined, but we still have things that are very much, were originally geared towards making traffic flow better and getting rid of mixed use, which was what the original zoning was, the main points of the original zoning were. Making traffic flow easily and getting rid of mixed use.
I think there have been major changes in
Enough to
any
change
number
that?
of the residential areas, the combination of the different residential areas, reduced the number, the affordable housing section that's spreading it throughout the city is a major change. The zoning board
And the plan.
language and the planning language, I think there's been major changes now.
We still have
Combining the two
extreme
commissions.
division of uses in this code. It's still quite,
But when you
quite
combine,
divided.
when you combine the different zoning areas, residential,
The residential is
you,
still, single family is still very separate than mixed, than multiple.
well, but when you combine them, you have your uses combined also. So it streamlines it. No, I disagree. I think there's been major changes in the zoning law. Is it 100%? Absolutely not. But
No, we're not even
Can it
finished
go
yet.
forward from
Yeah,
here?
the process
It is not.
well, it costs money.
Well, the
Yeah.
idea here is that however, it is proposed the entire zoning law be reorganized at this time to provide a more functional framework that can easily be amended in the future. Now, does that mean you can continue to change the framework, or within that framework, you're going to work on the more specifics?
It's an ordinance and it can be changed anytime,
Anytime.
depending on what the needs are.
Yeah,
That's
I know
it.
it can be, it's allowed to be, but is this a framework that is meant to lend more towards fine tuning within that framework? Is the framework very much a work in progress itself, is my question.
We talked about doing a reorganization, and we even laid out a preliminary one. As much as it sounds appealing, you can't start over again with a new zoning law for a city like Kingston, which has lived with this one for 50 years and made a lot of decisions on it. You can make it work better. You can try and reorganize it, as we've been talking tonight, so that you get rid of problems and inconsistencies and so forth. And I think the framework is getting better by what we'll be doing. Whether it's what the framework you'd have if you started from scratch today with a blank slate, probably not.
Well, and I think like Ernie said, I mean, and it happens all the time, you know, no one has the crystal ball.
Right.
So in a year, there could be another topic that could come on board and, you know, will be presented. And the city will consider whether or not they want to incorporate that into the zoning code.
So the zoning law is always a work in
It's always
progress.
a work in
For
progress.
instance, we
It's
could
not
have
something
a
that
section of
you
Kingston
adopt
that's
and.
a form-based code. We could have a section of Kingston Buffalo redid their whole city in a form-based code, which is very different than the kind of code that we have now. It's based mainly in form, secondary, and occasional restrictions of uses, but it's all mixed use. And then it's more predictable in terms of the form of what you're gonna get than what we have. And then there are cities that have a section they've decided to make form-based code. We talked about form-based code, but I don't believe we're really doing what a form-based code in that it's a form-based code. So we could in this, you can see that that is a possibility in the future, saying,
What's proposed is a form-based district in one area. And
it's not really a form-based code, it's more of a design overlay. And it's,
No, it's a form-based district.
There's
I
An
don't
overlay
think it's
district. It's an overlay district, it's a form-based district, and, you know, rather than attempt to do a form-based code throughout the city, I think the city is wise to try one in an area which makes the most sense and see how well it works and functions.
I mean, I have a document here that specifically for the Midtown Urban Core talks about
Yeah.
development of existing buildings, new buildings,
yeah.
form-based, there's even a little diagrams
I
here
haven't
for
been convinced that
form-based.
it's a true form-based code.
But I think your original question was, is this flexible, right? Is that what
Is
you're
the
getting at?
framework flexible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is never, it's always gonna be a work in progress.
Sure.
You know, so.
But I think we've made great strides in terms of the combining of the residential areas, criteria, and affordable housing.
Well, there'll always be differences of opinion, you know, that's.
I like to believe we've
Well-
made some grounds after a year and a half of
Yeah.
attending meetings, you know? So,
Exactly.
And I have a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Everybody's staying adjourned until the new scheduled meeting.